1 o'clock Sunday game. Enjoy it while it lasts.
1 o'clock home game.
On 1 o'clock home game, you're
Don't
right.
get many of those.
No, just 3 1 o'clock games all year for the Eagles. One of them coming up on Sunday at the Link. Rube, how you doing?
I'm good. Fired up.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've finally gotten some sleep after the last time we talked. I hadn't. It was going to be a long night, and it was. So, but we're back at it. The Eagles.
I've had elevator nightmares ever since our last podcast.
Yeah, I get that. Me too, a little bit. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Neither of us are dating world famous pop stars, so we appreciate you listening anyway. We have a lot to talk about today.
How do you define? Well, never mind. Yeah. Did you happen to see the exchange between Travis and Jason on the podcast, on their podcast? There is actually another podcast.
I saw the clip.
The clip, yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason's going to just have as much fun as possible with this.
Yeah, and he should. That's what a big brother is supposed to do.
That's true.
When your little brother's dating Taylor Swift. There's a handbook for that, I think.
If there's not, he'll make it up.
There's a lot to talk about.
There is.
We want to, we're a little bit past the game, but we want to look back a little bit at what the Eagles did against the Bucks on Monday night. We want to look forward to the Washington Commanders coming to town at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So we'll get into some matchups a little bit later. The Eagles are 3-0. Hasn't always felt like it, but they're in a really good position. So we'll kind of give the overarching theme that things are going well.
Overarching theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's start with the most fun player on this football team, Jalen Carter. Maybe the best Jalen on this team through 3 weeks.
Right now he is. Might be the best player on the team.
He's been unbelievable, and I thought it would be good. I didn't know it would be great through 3 games at a position where it can be really tough to transition into the NFL.
Yeah, and that was a big storyline during the summer. Was it's a position that even the best interior linemen don't really figure it out till year 2, sometimes year 3 or later. We're talking about Vita Vea and how his career started last week. It took him a while to get there. It's been, I thought he was going to be really good, but I've been blown away at the level he's played at. His ability to use that power and strength and athleticism together and marry them to make plays has been remarkable to watch. He's fit, he's in shape. I think he's in a great situation as far as having veterans like Fletch and BG with him every step of the way from OTAs up through the season. It's been incredible to watch. I think anybody who says they expected him to play at this level, maybe by the end of the year, maybe by year 2, but not to start his career.
Well, look, I think people were kind of expecting him to be great early, and I was telling everyone to pump the brakes a little bit because I know the history of that position, and I know how hard it is to just come into the league and shine right away. Now he's making me look silly right now because of how well he's playing. He's been unbelievable. He has, if you look at the stat sheet, 1.5 sacks already, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and the pressure has been tremendous. There's different metrics, of course. PFF has him with 15 total pressures.
Yeah.
That anecdotally, that passes snuff, right? Like you look at him and he's winning all of his rushes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I looked up, and you're right. Like everyone has a different number of hurries and quarterback hits and all that stuff. All the numbers are different, but in general, just using the stat head numbers, he's the first guy with 1.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 tackles for loss, and at least 6 hurries in his first 3 games since Sue.
Yeah,
and that was 13 years ago when he came out with Detroit. So he's playing at an elite level. I don't know if he's the best interior lineman in the league, but
he's already in the conversation.
I'll still give that to Aaron Donald. He's in the top handful.
Who's that?
He's in the top few.
Yeah, he absolutely is already. And it's not even just like it's empty pass rush. Like he is excellent against the run. And that's an element where you look at Javon Hargrave, and I don't want to knock him because he's a really good player.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter's already better against the run.
Oh, yeah. And he's not the pass rusher Hargrave is. I don't know if he ever will be. He might be close.
Might be by week 5.
He might be by week 5. But run defense was an issue last year, and Hargrave was part of that. And it's just not his game. It's not a knock on him. It's just not what he does.
Well, it's not like he's awful at it.
No. But it's not why he's out there.
Sure.
And I mean, it's not like he's babbing out there, like,
Yeah, I don't want people to think he's like a bad effort guy or something.
No, not at all. No, it's not his game. But I asked Nick yesterday because I mean Carter's playing less than half the snaps. I think he's averaging 48% of the snaps. Now, the last game they didn't have that many defensive snaps, so the numbers were low. He played 21 snaps. But that was still almost half. He's played 40, 28, and 21, all between 45 and 50% of the snaps. And I asked Nick, how do you balance having this kind of talent? And I know you want to rotate guys, and you have Milton, you have Fletch, you have Jordan Davis, and they're playing. I mean, we saw Tui Pelotu get a sack. Yeah, he's playing.
In 8 snaps, he got a sack.
He got a sack in 8 snaps. And so they've got a lot of guys that are running out there. And it's got to be tempting to give him more snaps. And he said, well, maybe we will. I think they have to. Look, it doesn't have to be 70%, but
I don't think it'd be much more, though.
I think in the 60s is a good place for him to be.
Really?
More than the 40s or 50s.
Okay.
As far as percentage, not number of snaps.
Sure. That's a pretty big jump.
From 48. He's at 48 now to 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a handful of snaps. But he's too good to spend half the game on the bench.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And if he can't handle it, you ramp it back down. Like but we see him effective late in games, which tells you that it's not too many snaps.
Yeah, but it also tells you maybe they're at the right spot.
Maybe, but I would
if you can maybe kind of match him and Fletch up a little closer, like kind of what they did last year with Fletch and Hargrave.
Yeah,
they were pretty equal for most of the year. They were clearly like the top line. It was almost like running hockey lines out there. I think that could be the right move. But you still want to play the other guys too. And there are snaps to be had for edge rushers inside. We've seen that at times as well.
Sure. I just think the impact he's making. If you're the other offensive coordinator, you're thrilled when he's not on the field.
Sure.
So
the problem when he's not on the field is like there are other good players on the field.
Sure, but he's in a class of his own so far. So I would play with that number. I would, and I think they will. Nick wouldn't say you might see it go up if it's not going to go up. I don't think he would just say.
Sometimes I think
Nick, maybe he's playing games, but I think it'll go. I think we'll see it go up, and they'll play around with it and see how it goes. But he's a force, and the thing that's impressed me is that, and this could have something to do with the lower snap count. I mean, he's productive on every snap.
He wins every rush. He's fighting through double teams too when he gets doubled.
Yeah. There was a snap. He was tripled Monday night. And I'm thinking this kid's in his 3rd NFL game. He's getting triple teamed. This is a rare talent. And
I mean, the problem is like, if you have him out there with Jordan Davis commands a double team because he's just so big. Like even if Jordan wasn't playing well, you still have to double him because he's 340 pounds.
Yeah.
So you can't double both of them. You really can't. I mean, we kind of saw that in the on the QB sneak. They both got doubled, and I rewatched that. I had a chance to rewatch that QB sneak from the end zone angle.
Oh, okay.
Holy cow! I'll have to show it to you after this pod. That's the one thing that's impressed me so much is how savvy Jalen Carter is, understanding exactly what he needs to do. So on that safety, he pulls off a swim move, hits the other guy, then realizes he has to come back and bowls over the guy he swam moved already, and gets him. That's a weird one. Is it swim moved? Or do you go past on swam moved?
I don't think it's swam moved. I think it would have to be
swim
moved. Or you just rework the whole sentence.
Yeah. I would do that if I was ready. I'd write around that.
Yeah.
But the dude who he hit with the swim move.
Does that ever happen to you when you're running a store and you're like, you can't figure out how to phrase something?
I'll rewrite it.
You just get rid of the whole paragraph. Yeah.
Start over. Anyway, on that snap, just great savvy. Recognized that he could slip the one guy, and it really created the lane Morrow came through to get to the running back. It was such an impressive rep for him.
Yeah, and that's I think savvy is a great word for it because he plays like a veteran, and he just understands what offenses are trying to do to neutralize him, and he beats it. And this is a kid who's obviously studying a lot of film and has a deep understanding of the game already.
I think a lot of it's instinctual.
I think a lot of it's probably instinctual, but I think a lot of it's preparation as well.
Okay. Like, to me, like, that safety is just him understand. He moves in a different way. Like, we've heard that about him. Like, he just moves differently. And that was a perfect example to me of that. And everything,
he moves
even like
in mysterious ways.
Yeah. And it's funny because like you in the pre-draft process, we know why he dropped to 9, but there was also like the secondary wave of like, oh, does he really care about this? Does he give effort? And I think all those effort questions were about practice, not the games, because in games, like I don't think his effort's really been questioned. And you see that like the forced fumble, that's a hustle play. He just hustles to the ball, gets there and makes a great play. I've been impressed by that element of it.
Yeah. And I think the level that Jordan Davis is playing at has helped in a couple of ways. I mean, if he's drawing a double, then that's one less guy they can put on Jalen. But also, I think just having his best friend out there and understanding, having that deep knowledge of how each other plays when they're out there together, which isn't all that much, but it's enough. And just having him there, he seems to really thrive on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to give Howie so much credit for making that pick when a lot of people didn't want to make it.
You know what's crazy? Fletcher wasn't on the field on that safety.
I know.
Imagine that, like Fletcher Cox is on the team and he's not out there for the biggest defensive play of the game because they have so many other guys who are that good who aren't being on the field.
Aren't being on the field.
Warrant.
Oh. Warrant being on the field. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And Fletcher's playing well.
Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah. I think he's really enjoying being around those two guys.
I agree. As much as he's helping them, I think they're helping him a little bit. I think
so.
They've given him a little bit of a bounce to his step.
A little fountain of youth.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems that way. It's a good story. I'll talk to him about that.
There you go. Anything else on Jalen Carter?
No.
I'd like to see some more Nolan Smith stats.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
violent QB hit.
6, 6, and 7.
Yeah, he's clearly behind Derek Barnett, who they like and they trust, and he's been here for a long time. I get all that. And he does take some snaps inside, which I don't think they're going to do a ton with Nolan.
Right.
But I think he's a weapon, and I think you got to try to find ways to get him on the field. Yeah. Now, it's tough when you play, 47 defensive snaps to carve them out.
But 6 isn't enough.
I kind of agree. He showed me something in that QB hit. It was a really violent play. I think it's time to start experimenting with him a little bit. Like we saw in that last game, there was one snap where Reddick kind of blitzed as a stand up through the A gap. That can be a Nolan Smith project, right? Mm-hmm. I think you can find ways to get him out there, even if he gives you like an inside backer look and comes as a blitzer. Now you can't do that all the time because you'll tip it, but like I think there are ways to get him involved.
Yeah, and he's so quick that when he's like going full speed when he gets to the quarterback. And what's the old saying? When he hits you, you stay hit.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, when he hits you, you stay hit. And I think quarterbacks. He's not the biggest guy, but he plays with so much force and so much ferocity.
He wants to hit a bleep.
Yeah,
bleepity bleep bleep.
Yeah, so I want to see that number go up too. And look, Barnett, I get that they're always going to be deferential to the guys that have been here a long time, and the guys I think use the word trust. Like Game was they just trust him. He's just a guy that in a big situation they trust. I think Barnett, they trust him, and which
is funny for Barnett because like we always think about the lack of discipline with penalties and everything.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as they trust him to be in the right place and all that, but yeah, I'd like to see that Nolan Smith number go way up.
I'd at least like to see that even out.
Yeah.
between him and Barnett.
Yeah. How many snaps is Barnett averaging? You have that in front of you?
I can find it real quick. Barnett's been ahead of him in each game so far. I know that for sure.
So Barnett has played 16, 14, and 11. I think Nolan's played 7, 6, and 6. So he's just about almost exactly doubled him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it would only take 3 more snaps to
yeah.
even
So
it
Barnett's at 41 on the year. Nolan is at 19.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 22% versus 10%.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that even out.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe. Do you think any of it is the whole Barnett wanting a trade thing, trying to keep him happy?
I don't know what it is. I don't really get it. I think Nolan Smith is too good to be on the bench.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
And look, we all love BG, but I think BG is, what is he, 35?
Yeah.
Kind of, I would never knock BG, but
his snaps are down too. I mean, he's at 30%.
Yeah, he played, what, 17 the other night?
Yeah. Out of 47.
Yeah, they barely had any snaps. The time of possession numbers are crazy. Second half time of possession was like 23 and a half to 6.5.
Yeah, you have a 9-minute and 22-second drive to finish the game.
It was actually the Eagles' highest second half time of possession on record, and they've been keeping that since 2000. By quarters, keeping time of possession by quarters. Yeah. So there weren't a whole lot of snaps to go around, but yeah, I think
Sweat is really high though. Sweat's at 71%.
Yeah.
And Reddick's at 69%. So those two guys are getting the lion's share of the work.
What do you make of Reddick?
I thought he got good pressure in week 1. So I don't know if it's really the thumb affecting him. We'll get into him in matchups later because I think he has an advantageous one this week.
Yeah.
Not too concerned.
Okay.
He has such a body of work at this point where I think it's gonna come for him.
Yeah.
Is there some concern with you?
A little bit.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's mainly because of the hand, the thumb. I guess he's got that cast or whatever it is on there. I just don't think he can play his game with his and use his hands. I mean, we see him around the quarterback.
Yeah, that's why
he's just not finishing.
Yeah, he has 1 QB hit, which obviously it's not enough.
Yeah.
He has 1 QB hit in, what does he have? 128 snaps. Nolan has one in 19. So you want to see more production, but yeah, I have a hard time getting worked up about Hassan Reddick when they're winning because I know eventually he's going to get there.
Yeah, I wonder if
it's kind of like my views on the passing game. It's like, is this concerning that it's not happening right now? Like, yes, of course, you want it to be there. The standard is the standard, as I've heard somewhere before. But if it's not there in week 3, okay, they're finding ways to win these games.
Sure,
it better be there later in the season.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. But the combination of, I mean, Sweat's been the only edge, I think, to get a sack. He's got 1.5. I think all their other sacks are interior guys. Tui Pelotu's got 1. Carter's got 1.5. And
Jordan Davis has 1.5.
1.5. Yeah. So that's,
Fletcher has a half.
And Fletcher has a half. Yeah. So, yeah, you'd like to see, and I think the combination of BG's production hasn't been up to last year's standard, and Reddick isn't getting there. Barnett's not really getting a ton. That you add all those things up. I don't think any of those guys are playing awful, but you add it up, and you like to see more Nolan Smith.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah, okay,
that's where I was going.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I wasn't either. No, I wasn't.
That was like you're just wandering. You're wandering. Oh, there's where I'm going. I want to get to the passing offense a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Eagles weren't very good in the red zone.
Right.
In that game, they're 1 for 5. That needs to be better because you look at the numbers and you say, well, was it 472 yards of offense?
Well, I say 1 for 4 because that last possession they weren't trying to score.
Okay, sure. Well, still 1 for 4 is not very good either. Yeah. That's not good enough, right? Like this is a game where you look at the final score and you go 25 points.
And I think they had 2 other drives inside the 25.
Sure.
Where they didn't get touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was they could have scored 50 points.
Yeah, at least 40, right? Like you're thinking this should be a blowout. So like the positive is they're moving the football. I thought the run game, obviously, I don't think you worry about that. That looks pretty good. The passing offense, I think, took strides. Still not where it needs to be.
Yeah, and I'm not super concerned about the red zone stuff because in the one they had a penalty that knocked them back. The one they just didn't get it on fourth down. They'll get most of those. I don't know. It just they've been a good red zone team. I don't think they're all of a sudden a bad red zone team because they had a bad game. It was just a bad game in the red zone. They did what they had to do to win. I saw some good signs in the passing offense. I thought Monday night, and Jalen Hurts, the other Jalen on this team, had
the other Jalen with the $255 million contract.
That's right. I thought he threw the ball with more authority, I thought, than he has.
Jalen's a really popular name here. We've had a lot of Jalen.
Jalen Mills,
Jalen Rager, Jalen Watkins.
That's spelled differently.
Still same name.
With a Y. But the funny thing is, they never had any Jalen's before. Like, I guess Jalen Watkins was probably here before Jalen Mills, a year or two before, but they never had any Jalen's before that. It's a modern name. They used to have Steves and Chucks, and Tommies. But anyway, what were we talking about? So the pass. So I thought, the first two games, I think he had like 9 completions over 10 yards combined. On Monday night, he had 11. So he's getting the ball down the field more. I thought he made some big throws. I mean, the throw to OZ in the end zone was that was vintage Jalen. I thought the completions on that last drive that he made were even that last one. Those were really nice throws. I'm just not worried about him. He's had a couple of drops. He's had a couple that he just missed guys. He's going to hit those guys. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I do too. It's not an ideal start for him through 3 games. I think he's played below his standard.
No question.
Sorry
standard is standard.
Yeah, it is. And he says that, and he's played below it. But I thought he showed good signs of trending the right way on Monday night. There were some moments where, that play to OZ, the touchdown throw, is a play that he doesn't make a few years ago. I think he tucks that, he runs it, maybe picks up a first down, but you don't get that big play. And it's always going to be tricky figuring that out because he has that ability to take off. But, if he can hang in there a little bit, he can make those throws. The chunk plays were good to see. Moving down the field in chunks, this is an explosive offense. They want to win the explosive play battle, and they did that certainly on Monday night. That's important for this team, and they have to keep picking up chunks of yardage at a time like they did.
Yeah, and that's a really good defense, and it's a DC or a head coach who, as a DC, gave him a lot of trouble. And his numbers weren't elite. I think the 2 interceptions are they kind of make his numbers look lousy, but the one was a miscommunication. The other was great play by the corner. He probably shouldn't have thrown the ball.
Although, you know what? As much as I think it probably wasn't the right decision, I have a hard time really faulting him.
Yeah, same.
Because how many times have we praised him for giving his guys a chance to make a play and trusting them?
Yeah.
So it doesn't work out one time and you throw an interception at the 1 yard line. You go, well,
yeah, it didn't bother me.
Yeah. It makes the numbers look way worse, but I was okay with it. I didn't think it was so the interception 2 weeks ago, that was bad.
Right.
That to me, that was a bad play.
Terrible.
At least this one is DB makes a nice play. You're throwing it up to Devontae Smith. Sure. If he throws it up to bring Covey, I'm going, well, maybe don't throw that ball, but
Joseph Nagata.
Yeah.
Could Devontae have been a little more aggressive to the ball?
Probably.
A little bit.
I mean,
Yeah. Nitpicking, but
sure. I think that's certainly fair to say.
Yeah.
I think Devontae might agree with you.
Yeah, maybe. And also knowing you have that defense, honestly, and they got points out of it. I mean, so it's not like you're planning that, but he might have be a little more apt to throw that ball.
I don't know if I mentioned this on the post game pod. I was talking to Brandon Graham about the safety, and he said, "Oh yeah, I was out there trash talking. So you guys don't want to be here. Oh no, don't run the ball. Don't run the ball." You can just picture him on the field just trash talking before safety.
He is a trip. He is so funny. But yeah, that was so I left that game feeling like Jalen Hurts made some progress.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Even if the numbers didn't say it.
He's not there.
Yeah.
He's not back to prime 2022 Jalen yet. He's just not. But it looks better.
Does he look slower to you running? Just more tentative?
I think certainly more tentative, which isn't a bad thing. Especially like there have been times where he'll pick up a few yards and slide, and you go, "Oh, that was nice.
Yeah,
appreciate that. You should do that. Please slide, Jalen."
Yeah, that's true.
They haven't had big chunks on the ground with him yet. Brian Johnson said a couple of weeks ago that they were close. I don't know if I've seen that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I still think it's a part of the offense.
It needs to be. It hasn't been. I mean, he's converted a couple third downs.
Some big third downs.
Yeah, no doubt. But I'm curious to see because this guy, was one of the best running quarterbacks. I mean, he's averaging like 3.1. Now you take out the kneel downs. There's been a couple of those, and you take out the third and ones, fourth and ones, where you're limited to how many yards you can get. You're not going to get 8 yards on a brotherly shove. I don't really like that brotherly shove.
Brotherly shove.
I don't like.
What I don't like? That we keep talking about the tush push.
Yeah, it's a little much. It's just a play, and it works.
It's just so strange to me. Like it's in the rule book.
TJ Watt's tweet.
JJ Watt.
JJ Watt's tweet.
Yeah. I did. Yeah,
that was good.
Well, it's very true. Like the push element of it is so overblown.
Yeah.
Like the push helps a little bit, but it's like it's not like they're picking Jalen up and throwing him over the line of scrimmage.
No, and on the one where they scored on Monday night, I mean, it was just like really almost a traditional keeper on the goal line.
Yeah, it's very strange to me that like we're still doing this. Like every time they're going to run this play, we're going to keep doing it.
Well, because people ask 10 questions to Nick about it every time he's available. But yeah, they'd be great on the goal line without it. And they are.
Without the push element, they're still a really good sneak team because you have Jason Kelsey and Landon Dickerson. Like it's a really good start.
And Juergens, yeah. Yeah.
Although he runs more to Landon.
Yeah, no, he does.
Which makes sense.
Which I would too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little much. I think it's kind of like the third quarterback rule. People are like
talk about it a lot.
It's just like when they see a team that wins all the time, people try to like, oh, it's only because of this. It's only because of that. I don't. So right now, the Eagles are that team that used to be the Patriots.
It's just so weird to me. Like the arguments against it make no sense.
No, the only real argument is they're good at it and we're not. It's the only argument.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, he does look tentative to me running, and I think I don't know if physically he's just not the same runner. It happens. I mean, he's still a young guy. You would expect him to be able to. I mean, I think he's got one run for over 10 yards this year. He had like 24 last year, or 2 years ago, he had 24. Last year, he had 21. So we'll see. Something to keep an eye on. Because
although I always expected some sort of transition away from that.
I expected transition as far as, and I mean, I think we're starting to see a little bit where he, like you mentioned, he does throw when he used to run.
Mm-hmm.
But when he does run, he just doesn't look the same to me. And I'm not sure why that is.
Okay.
It's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have him throw almost all the time instead of running.
Yeah. I mean, that's what great quarterbacks do, really.
It's safer and yeah. And it's more productive, really. I mean, it's fun watching a quarterback run for 30 yards. But
I think it'll be there if they need it.
Yeah, I think that's the big question. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still think he's faster than most guys trying to chase him.
We'll see.
Yeah. You don't think so?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Jury's out for me.
Okay. I've seen enough of it that I think it'll be there.
Okay.
Real quick,
right.
I wanted to talk about Britton Covey a little bit.
Yeah.
He's just played really well, had that 52-yard return. I had a chance to catch up with him in the locker room the other day. And I did ask him about the notion that some fans really just don't seem to trust him, don't seem to like him.
Covey sucks.
Yeah.
How many tweets have you gotten?
A lot. And I try not to like conflate the tweets I see with sentiment from the fan base,
but there is that element.
It's been so prevailing that
Yeah.
like I think it is real, and I think it's getting quieter because it like how does it not? But I asked him about it. It was really great. Like he explained that like even if they were saying how great he was, he would really try to not like listen to it because there are going to be some tough moments coming. He's like everything's great right now. We're hitting, but there are going to be bad plays too, and he knows that's eventually going to come. So trying not to go with the flow of it. I almost said get too high or too low, and I was like, no, Jalen, you're not getting me. I'm not saying it.
We all just turned into Jalen. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, but he's been really impressive. And this is something about Covey that is
that'd be fun having like a talk like Jalen day.
Be a short podcast.
We'd have to do it on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday.
Yeah.
Like you're at a restaurant or something. Yeah. What can I get you? I'd like to keep the main thing. I don't know. Covey. Yeah.
Covey in the receiver room. He's like a goofy little dude.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not why they have him on the team. Like he's on the team to return punts, but he does have a fun role in the building. He knows it about himself. He's very self-aware, but he called himself the goofy little brother of the receiver room.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of that kid, and he's really tough. I mean, he takes some shots and just pops right back up. He called himself the human punching bag the other day. But he's really good. I think he's really got a good knack for punt returns. He's got great vision. He's quick. I mean, he changes direction really quickly. He's got really, he's got that rare ability to make a cut and to go into full speed very quickly when he makes that cut. And that, he buys himself some extra yards doing that. The guys in the locker room just love him. I was talking to Jake Elliott. He was pissed yesterday, just talking about some of the tweets he saw about Covey. And he's like, this, what does he have to do? Like, people see somebody return a punt for a touchdown and they think he's supposed to do that every play. And the world doesn't work that way. He's actually got the 11th highest punt return average in history by an undrafted player.
Okay.
Which you do that stat after a 52-yarder, it's going to be higher because he's not going to be at, 11-1. But right now he's fourth in Eagles history behind Westbrook, Sproles, and Brian Mitchell.
Yeah.
He's pretty good
and
company.
Like the 52, that's a long return. It's his longest return, but it's not like a crazy long return. So I'm looking at the stats this year. He's averaging 18.8. There's two players averaging 18.8 or higher. Rashid Shaheed has 24.5. Charlie Jones from the Bengals has 18.8 as well. But they have longs of 76 and 81.
Yeah.
So you can look at that and say, well, Covey's been more consistent than these guys in a way. He
seems to get like 12, 14, almost every return. There's been a couple that he's fair caught, like on the 6, where maybe he's taught to do that.
Yeah, I think probably he is, because the fear there is that you get a bounce and it's at the 3.
And punters are pretty good at doing that. But yeah,
and it's also not all on him. Like this special teams unit in general has been a little shaky over the last couple of years. So there are moments where he's maybe doing the right thing and there's just nothing for him.
Yeah, that's true. And on that return, you got good blocking, so it works both ways. But it was funny. I was talking about him with Jake, and Britton walked by, and we both just stopped talking. And he looked at us, and he's like, "What? What did I do? What did I do?" I'm like, nothing. I don't want to jinx you. Interesting guy. He's older. I think that helps as far as
26.
Very level-headed because he did a mission. Where was he, in Chile for 2 years?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And he loves talking about that experience. I think, he's just a really well-rounded, intelligent, fun guy to talk to. You can't go by his locker without getting a fist bump. Everybody in the media gets their fist bump from BG and Covey. Like, they could have just lost 54-0. You get your fist bump from Covey and BG.
Yeah, and I want to make that clear. That's not why he's a good punt returner. He's a good punt returner because the numbers say he is.
Yeah, I'm just kind of adding some color to his personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his grandfather, like, was it Stephen Covey?
Yeah.
Like this world-renowned author, self-help type books.
Yeah. 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I made it to 2 habits. I got through to.
You know what's funny? I was ignorant about Stephen Covey. I didn't.
I'd heard the name.
Okay. I didn't know about that book and how like massive it was. And I was mentioning it to my mom, who isn't like obviously a different world than me and in football and stuff, but she was like, oh yeah, like she knows all about it. And yeah. It's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his grandfather, who I don't believe he ever met. I think he never.
No.
Did he meet his grandfather?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My bad. Interesting family. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I think everybody in the franchise is happy for him. It's great to see that big return. And it's been a while since they had good field position for the first season, as far as average field position. So certainly helps.
Yeah, that 52-yarder was the longest since.
Oh, Rager's 73-yard touchdown against the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2020.
2020. Jalen Rager, that is.
Jalen.
Another Jalen.
All right, let's take a break, and then we will get to some matchups on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and NissanUSA.com today.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll get to matchups in just a moment here, but I want to get your thoughts, like big picture, where the Eagles are right now. 3-0 hasn't looked great every week, but they're just one of 3 teams that are still undefeated. What's the temperature right now?
I think they're in a good place, and I think the difference between them and a lot of teams is like it's been a weird year. I think 3 undefeated teams after week 3. I'd have to look it up. It doesn't seem like very many. See, there's usually a lot of teams are really taking off and playing great football. Nobody really is. I mean, the Niners and Dolphins are, but to be 3-0 without really having played a complete game says a lot about the resilience of this team and the coaching and just their ability to do what they have to grind it out when things aren't going particularly well. I mean, 25-11 seems like a blowout, but nothing came easy to them in Tampa. They were kind of fighting it right until the end. So
it felt different than the first 2 games, though.
It did. They had a little breathing room in the second half.
Although in all these games, they've been up at least 16 points.
Right. And then the fact that the first 2, that lead dwindled kind of, I guess gave you a little skittish feeling, and look, they scored a couple times and you're like, all right, this game's over. Start writing your obs. But I think they're in a good place. And once they hit their stride, I mean, the edge rushers haven't gotten going. The passing game hasn't gotten going. So some really big components of this team haven't really heated up yet. When they do, I think they're going to be really good. And you would hope that kind of coincides with that stretch where they have, the Bills and the Chiefs and the Niners and Dallas and Seattle. And because they're going to need to be playing better football to get through that stretch intact.
Yeah.
In a good place. So I think to lose a Super Bowl and start out 3-0, and it's happened before. The Falcons did it. The Niners did it back with their couple Super Bowls ago. I mean, it happens, but I think you got to have a really good leadership from your coaching staff to get a team back hungry and motivated and disciplined and doing the things they have to do to go 3-0 after that kind of disappointment. So I like where they are. Yeah.
And if we look at the schedule, they can't do this. We can do this. Commanders at home. Then they're at LA to face the Rams, who have been a little better than I probably expected. Then you're at New York to face the Jets. They've obviously been a different team than we thought.
Who's our quarterback going to be that week?
Zach Wilson.
You think?
Probably. I mean, I don't think Trevor Siemian is like.
I'm going to guess Spurgeon win. That's my guess.
Then you face the Dolphins, tough game. Then at the Commanders, and then at home against the Cowboys before the bye. So they're doing what they need to do. Yeah, they have to keep winning the games they're supposed to win. That's the one thing under Sirianni they have done really well.
Yeah.
And it's some like, yes, the big games are the big games, but they take care of the teams they're supposed to take care of.
Yeah, I mean,
for the most part,
Washington last year, but that happens. They just didn't.
That was a blip. Yeah,
they just didn't play well.
You know what's one of my favorite things this week? The Dolphins are underdogs after scoring 70 points. They faced the Bills.
That game's in Orchard Park.
Yeah,
that's a great game. That's a 1:00 game, isn't it?
It is.
I wish that was in that game.
Dolphins at Bills, 1:00.
Yeah, that's a fun game because that's one of the better defenses. How many times did the Bills sack Sam Howell? 9 times.
Yeah.
So that's that offense versus that defense. And Josh Allen's starting to play better. He got a slow start. 3 picks in the opener.
That's a nice way to put that. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's starting to play better. They run the ball too. Mm-hmm. So that's a good team.
It is. But I wanted to tell you my favorite part of that is the Broncos are favorites.
Oh, that's really funny.
They play the Bears, so they're 3.5-point favorites. So the team that got 70 hung on them are favorites this week. The team that scored 70 are underdogs.
That's great. Did you tweet that out?
No.
You got to tweet that out.
It's fun.
That'll get big numbers on X.
I don't care about that.
Where's that? Is that game in Denver?
Chicago.
It's in Chicago. How bad is Chicago?
Pretty bad. Pretty bad. Having a weird season, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. A lot to write about up there.
Yeah. Crazy stuff going on.
And a lot of people thought they were team on the rise.
I think people just like sold themselves on it.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's tough too. I think people are looking at the division and say, well, Rodgers is gone. Maybe the Lions aren't as good as everyone's saying they are.
Yeah.
But it's been pretty bad.
It has been. All right. Let's look at some matchups.
Let's do it. We'll start with the Eagles offense. I think it all starts up front in this game. Commanders have a very good defensive line. They have for many years now. The one thing about this line is like the starters are very good. I don't think they have a ton of depth, and that was really the case last year too when the Eagles were preparing for this team. But Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne inside, and then Montez Sweat and Chase Young back in action on the edges. That's a good front. That's about as good as you get.
Yeah, their top 4 is as good as anybody's. And that's the challenge. I mean, that's the strength of that team.
Absolutely.
So if you can,
very good players.
If you can slow them down, they don't have a whole lot of ways to win games.
Yeah, and you still like the Eagles' chances. That their offensive line is playing so well. Cam Jurgens, we'd mentioned him earlier. Just his best game so far in week 3. He was really good.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and that's a tough matchup for him. I thought he played really well. You're going to see Jordan Mailata against Chase Young. Chase Young, obviously a really talented player, hasn't been able to put it together. He's had some injuries. Looking forward to that. And on the other side, Lane Johnson versus Montez Sweat. Lane's been so good. A little shaky start to a season, but he's settled in and he's been playing great. Montez Sweat leads that team with 3 sacks. He's been playing well. So if Lane controls him, which he probably will, then I don't know if they have enough to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think it's another game where the Eagles could run the ball on that front.
Yeah, and that's the next one. DeAndre Swift has been so good. The Commanders get after the quarterback a little bit. They're not great against the run statistically. They've given up 4.8 yards per carry. And with this Eagles offensive line, I think they can run against pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
And then if you get an advantageous matchup like this, it can be a recipe. And you remember, so the game the Eagles lost to the Commanders last year, the Commanders controlled the clock.
Right.
They were running the ball. They were getting first downs. And the Eagles on offense were like passing, and it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And it ended up being this lopsided game that kind of surprised everyone. I'm not saying the Eagles have to go 1980s football here, but they can do that a little bit and control the clock and run the football because they've done that so well. I still think they're going to throw the ball, and they should against this team, but it's always a nice fallback when you have this offensive line and a running back who just hits the hole as hard as Swift does.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they've discovered something that they were maybe didn't know they had in that running attack. And that's like instant replay of 2021, right? We didn't know we could do this. And we went up to Detroit and ran for 300 yards. And everything changes except the O-line. I mean, even since 21, the O-line has changed. But I think this could be another big day on the ground. But you're right. I think they'll start out throwing, try to build a 10-point lead, and then just start running it up and down the field.
That's their recipe, and it's worked really well. And if they're throwing the ball, this is every week that the Eagles pretty much go into a matchup thinking they have the advantage with their receivers against the other corners. Fuller's playing really well. He's their top corner. Manuel Forbes is the rookie, and he's a good rookie, first-round pick, 16th overall at Mississippi State, but also a tiny little guy. They list him at 180. I mean, it was at the combine, that was the big news that he weighed in at 166. Maybe some bully ball here. You know, if you get A.J. Brown lined up against him, just let A.J. use his frame and go up and get the ball against him.
I mean, A.J. out-muscles big corners.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a matchup that you'd like to get.
Forbes will gamble a little bit, too.
Yeah.
A little sluggo to A.J. He's got a bite on the slant. Hit him deep.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yep.
Okay. On the other side.
This is a matchup I'm really looking forward to seeing. I think we should probably say what it is before I start talking about it.
Is this the D-line? Is that what you want to talk about? In general, yeah. Sam Howell's been sacked 19 times through 3 games. Second most ever through 3 games. Tied for second most ever through 3 games. A ton. I mean, it's just taken a ton of sacks.
Rob Johnson got sacked 20 times.
Yeah.
In 1998 in the first 3 games. Yeah, and I think it could be like last year where the Eagles didn't have a lot of sacks going into the Washington game, and then they had 9 against the guy in Indy, and who was playing for Washington. He wasn't playing for Indy, but he's still the guy in Indy. And that really got him going, and they started getting 6 every game, 6 or 7 every game. This could be that kind of game. I love this matchup. And you know, we haven't seen the edge rushers really eating yet. And I think this could be a chance for everybody. But I especially like the matchups inside.
Yeah, I like the matchup outside. I think this was a Hassan Reddick breakout game.
Could be.
He's got Andrew Wiley. And if that name rings a bell, it's because we were talking about this matchup last February when the Eagles were facing the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And we said, man, this right tackle is not very good. He's susceptible to the pass rush. And then they had to play the game on an ice hockey rink. And Reddick just could not get his footing. And look, Wiley played well. I don't want to take anything away from him. He had a little assist in that game. This is Reddick getting to face him on grass. I'm pointing behind me because the link is behind me.
So I take the camera and show everyone where the link is.
That's all right. Okay. They know where it is.
Yeah.
This could be a chance for Reddick to break out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I think as much as players say like individual matchups don't, he knows who he's facing.
Yeah. And it'll be a level playing field.
Level and normal.
Yeah, he's got to get going. This is a good opportunity for him.
Yeah. And then the last one I have is Slay versus McLaurin, Terry McLaurin, who's just been very good. And Slay has been super complimentary of McLaurin. He really likes him as a player, but he's held him in check. Yeah,
he has. He's really good. He'll catch. He'll have a couple of big catches. I mean, you go from Justin Jefferson and Mike Evans to Terry McLaurin. That's 3 of the best in the league.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any easier. I mean, there's going to be there's some good receivers coming up.
Yeah.
But Garrett Wilson, Tyreek is coming. You have CeeDee Lamb on the schedule. Stephon Diggs, Debo, like looking down the list. DK and Lockett, like you have some good receivers coming.
Yeah. So I've been encouraged by the way Slay's played.
He's looked good.
Yeah.
Even against Jefferson, who like got his. Yeah. There were plays for Slay to make. He was in the right position. He just didn't make them, which you want to see him make those plays, but
could have had a pick Monday night on that one that
he's gotten close to so many picks. He's probably beating himself up in the film room.
Yeah. I'm sure he won't talk about it much, but he's
what'd you make of Bradbury, by the way, playing in the slot?
work in progress, but there were some good things. He was talking about how hard it is yesterday.
It's just completely different.
Yeah. So it's a different position.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked out. But yeah, I mean,
can they do this the rest of the year? Just like play matchup driven, bunch of different guys, bunch of moving parts. Sometimes it's Bradbury, which means you have Job outside. Sometimes you put Sidney in there. Maybe at some point Goodrich is active and he plays a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know the answer. I guess until another solution presents itself, you're going to do that. I mean, yeah.
Well, I don't know if another solution is going to present itself.
Well,
are they going to go get someone? Is that what you mean?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody takes ownership of I just don't see that happening, though.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with even if Bradbury takes ownership of it, is Job taking ownership of the outside corner spot?
Yeah.
That's the bigger question.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of things have to, but I think this is probably the best option right now.
Yeah. What'd you make of Sidney when he played?
I like Sidney.
Just 12 snaps.
Yeah. I liked it. I mean, I thought.
What's his last name?
Sidney Brown.
Okay.
Did I say Sidney Jones again?
No, I was just making sure.
Oh.
I was trying to get you to organically just say it, but it didn't work.
I wrote Sidney Jones in my Sidney Brown piece, but I corrected it.
Good.
I was really impressed with, the play on. I was actually just talking to Bradbury yesterday in the locker room about that play, because this is a guy. I think Sidney had played 4 snaps coming into that game, and that play in the end zone was in the second quarter. So at that point, he had probably played like 7 or 8 NFL snaps on defense, and that's Mike Evans. And Mike Evans didn't catch that ball cleanly, but Sidney came out of nowhere and got his left hand in there. He's like diving toward the play. It was great timing. It was aggressive. The moment wasn't too big for him. This is a Hall of Famer on national TV in the end zone. I mean, there was a lot. That's a big high leverage, as they say, moment. And he was up to the challenge and made a really, really good play.
I'm glad this was something I was I always like when I think about something and I want them to do it and then they do it. I wanted them to play Sidney because he's just talented. Find a way to get him on the field. And I think that's a really good sign from Desai, because I think some defensive coordinators wouldn't have done that. Yeah,
I think you're right. One of my observations going into the game, of my 10 observations, it was the shortest observation I've ever had. It was play Sidney. 2 words. And when you're trying to finish that, it's really nice to have a 2-word observation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's
got banged up in the game. So that was part of the reason he didn't play more than 12 snaps.
A little hammy.
The reason he didn't play more than 12 snaps.
Yeah, exactly. I like what I've seen from him.
They called it a thigh during the game, and now he's listed as a hamstring.
Yeah, it's kind of moved down a little bit.
Isn't that the flip sides of the leg?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think sometimes when you're really sore, you're not exactly sure where the pain is. I don't know.
I think a hammy, though, huh?
This draft class is looking pretty promising.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Carter is a good start.
Yeah.
Nolan Smith, limited time, has looked pretty good. We haven't seen Steen.
Right.
He's been inactive every game, but they drafted him for the future, so you don't worry about that too much.
I mean, even Ringo on special teams
he's looked the part on special teams.
Yeah.
I agree with that. He's looked fine.
Yeah. So
yeah. Tanner McKee looks good holding that clipboard. He gets the dress, which is kind of fun. That's got to be fun. Maybe I'll do a stupid story about that.
Okay.
Because all the other inactive guys are in street clothes. Tanner McKee gets to dress out for each game because of the emergency quarterback.
That's such a Dave Zangaro story.
That's a fun story.
It is. Yeah.
No one steal that. I'm going to write that.
You're not going to steal it. It was your idea. You said it.
I'm saying
who are you stealing from? Yourself?
No, I'm saying no one else steal it.
Oh.
I don't think I have to worry about that.
I don't either. Who's most likely to write that? Zach Berman. That's
no, Zach wouldn't write that.
But he would write it about. No, never mind.
Yeah.
Love Zach.
I like that story. That's kind of fun. He's the first. He's the first wave of inactive players who gets to dress for game day.
Historic. It's really.
It's
historic. He talked about his historic role on this team.
Yeah, I just talked to him about speaking Portuguese last week, so maybe I'll give him a breather from me.
You could do the interview in Portuguese.
Yeah, that was really funny. So I do my Q&A each week with a player, and my Q&A with Tanner McKee was about him. He speaks Portuguese. This is coming full circle. He had a mission trip just like Britton Covey, but his was in Brazil. So they speak Portuguese there. And he learned it while he was there, and he still can speak a bunch. And he mentioned that, the one massage therapist that works for the Eagles speaks Portuguese, and she said something to him in Portuguese because she knew about his story, but he said that to me in Portuguese.
Right.
So I had this panicked moment, and Rube knows about this, when last week when I'm trying to transcribe it's a Q&A. I can't write around it. I have to write the words he said, but he said words in Portuguese, and I didn't know what to do. I don't know Portuguese.
You were panicking a
little bit.
Yeah.
I had to get the audio and plug it into a transcription service just so it would spit out the words, and then I translated them.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a panicky.
It's a lot of work for a story no one reads.
I read it.
Thank you.
Panicky Slack message from Dave. Does your transcription service translate into Portuguese? And it actually does.
I appreciate that about it.
So that was fun. That's fun. That's a fun series, though. People should read that. It's good.
Yeah, some people do. People enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's a smaller bunch, but people who read
we all
it
have our
enjoy it.
lost leaders.
Yeah, of course. Were you good here?
Yeah. Want to do a prediction?
Yeah, I don't have a number for you. I'm gonna pick the Eagles this week. It's 8.5 point spread though. I don't know if I'm gonna.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll check because the face you just made makes me think.
No,
it's
I don't
not.
really follow that stuff. But that makes sense.
Yeah, 8.5
games here. They just got clobbered. I mean, they're 2-1, but don't really have the feel of a 2-1 team.
No, they don't. I mean, they got their butts kicked.
We haven't talked about
Bills.
Sam Howell. What are your impressions of him?
Got some moxie.
Love that word. He's got some moxie. That's what you say for a guy who plays hard and hustles. Isn't that good?
Yeah, kind of like Heineke.
I think Heineke's better. Well, I mean, he's been around longer.
Yeah, their wins are against the Cardinals and the Broncos, both tight wins. 20-16 in Week 1 against the Cardinals.
That's a big win over a Cardinals team that just beat the Cowboys.
Yeah. They didn't know that then.
No, they didn't.
35-33 over the Broncos, who just got their butts whooped by the Dolphins. I think the Commanders are an okay team. I think they're an average team. I think they're maybe an 8-win team.
I'm going to go double digits here. I think it'll be something like 30-20.
I could see that.
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah. I think they're a tough team.
That front is what scares you.
Yeah. They have a pretty good defense. I don't know if they have enough on offense.
Yeah. I mean, they run the ball too. They run the ball pretty well with that Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a great running team. They're okay.
Yeah.
All right. Want to wrap this up?
Let's do that.
Do us a favor. You know the deal here. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, we love you guys too. Please click the like button, subscribe there as well. Yeah, that's it. We'll talk to you guys after the game. It won't be a middle of the night podcast, which is a thing of beauty for Reuben and I to hear, but we'll talk to you after that game. That's it. This has been the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. We'll talk to you soon.